All right, and we are live. Get your corn pop ready, sunshine happy lady. Hello, hello. I hope you had a great day. Happy Wednesday as we sit here in much anticipation of our president, unfortunately, Joe Biden. All right, so as you guys are coming in, let me know what you expect. How much talk about systemic racism? How much talk about COVID-19? How much talk about, the plan is going according to schedule, all this stuff? Is he going to go off a tangent? Is he going to talk about corn pop? What's going to happen, guys? So, I hope you guys had a great day. Enjoyed it with the ones you love, made some money today. Here comes the doctor. Not so much. If you guys have never made homemade ramen noodles, it is amazing. Go to your local store and get organic ramen noodles, organic vegetable broth, beef broth, all that stuff. Throw it all together. That's what I'm going to be eating on as, we casually watch our president. Coco Sanchez, hello. So they're not going to be able to clone this, but I think the speech is just going to be to the point, not very much time to ramble. He's probably going to hit a few key points, tout the socialist democratic agenda, and hopefully he gets out of there without falling down the stairs or falling over his words, whichever one comes first. But you gotta anticipate. Come on, this is your first address. He's gonna have this down, I would think. Coco Sanchez, yes, yes. As you could tell, still rocking the hat in the back. Let me know if you guys if the audio is good.
Madam Speaker, representatives of the President's Cabinet.
All right, so we got about 2 minutes to go. Yes, yes. As you guys know, we finally hit that 1K subs. Thank you, everybody who supported me through the journey to 1,000 subs. It is a small step forward, but for somebody like me, small steps are great steps. So obviously the next goal for me is moving forward to 5K. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you guys hit that like button, drop a comment below, share some of my other content. And I'm just looking forward, guys, to just having a nice casual night, drinking a little wine. Me and my wife just bought a van because we're about to welcome our fourth child into this world. So whatever Joe Biden's got going on, I'm gonna make sure that my house runs smooth. So I'm in great spirits. Just looking forward to having a good time with you guys. As you guys are filing in, make sure you hit that like button. Let's get these likes all the way up. Make sure you guys drop a comment. Let's have some good dialogue as the night progresses. We should be starting. It's 9 o'clock. So at any moment, Nancy Pelosi is going to start her her introductions, and the procedure should start with Kamala
This
Harris.
program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully they don't copyright me or hit me with a strike. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Joe Biden.
Good evening and welcome to our special PBS NewsHour coverage of President Joe Biden's first joint address to Congress. I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight's speech comes on the eve of his 100th day in office and with challenges facing the nation in almost any direction he looks. It takes place as the United States remains in the grip of the COVID pandemic, even as vaccinations rise and the number of cases goes down. The president will address that as he folds in.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not gripped by COVID-19.
The U.S. economy, from roads and bridges to childcare, all while confronting the climate crisis.
Oh my goodness.
This is also a moment of racial reckoning in America and calls for action to end gun violence. There are other milestones tonight. We will see 2 women for the first time behind the president, and he will speak from the site of the violent January 6th insurrection. The foundations of our democracy were attacked. Our Yamichelle Sindor and our
Creepy Joe is going to embarrass himself as usual. Yeah, at this point, guys, it's not even embarrassment. The dude has lost it.
Lisa will be joining us on the phone, but she's inside the House chamber in the balcony where the speech is taking place. Lisa, we're watching, we're waiting for the president to come in, but it's very clear many fewer people here that would normally be there for a presidential address.
That's right, Judy. In the past just over a year, I've seen 2 impeachments, an insurrection, and I have never seen anything like this in the House chamber. You see members dotting the chamber. Roughly just
two impeachments. I'm gonna mute that while I just give a little bit of commentary. And guys, you know what? We're hanging out tonight, so make sure you guys drop the comment, hit that like button. Let me know what you guys are thinking. But I mean, they're talking about the insurrection. Something that's true, and it's gonna stay true, is Black Lives Matter tried to hijack the country. Yes, is that maybe very bold thing to say? Yes, but it's true, guys. They're going to talk about the insurrection this, the insurrection that. What we saw in the year 2020 was a Black Lives Matter organization rally and assemble people to basically burn down the country. They had their own mini insurrection. So in my mind, what I saw was that the January 6th insurrection was, to me, it looked like a house party compared to what the BLM riots accomplished, with billions of dollars of damage and other things. So we're going to hear about climate. We're going to hear about gun control. We're going to hear about systemic racism. And oh my goodness, racial reckoning. What a garbage, just a garbage catchphrase. It sounds so good. This is the year of racial reckoning. Yeah, but this administration is going to change nothing when it comes to racial reconciliation. Because if you guys didn't see a take, maybe you watch ESPN, maybe not. There's a lot of wokeness there, so you probably don't. But Marcellus Wiley got up there and he said, we're not, it's not the fact that we're divided. Like, white and black people aren't really divided. It's just polarized that way. The real thing is that we're different. But these politicians are going to capitalize on, oh no, we're not different, we're divided. So that's what I expect. Just more racial propaganda. Let's go ahead. Joe Biden.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we wanted to hear William Walker, the new House Sergeant at Arms, who's just taken that office in this week. On Monday, he was sworn in. He announced that President Biden would be entering the chamber. You can see what is normally a walk down that aisle where the president may be shaking hands with dozens of people. There he fist bumped with Representative Liz Cheney, Republican of Wyoming, who was one of the few Republicans to speak out against President Trump at the time of the insurrection. But there you see President Biden fist bumping with Patrick Leahy, the senator from Vermont, but preparing to step up to the front. That was Chuck.
I mean, guys, they're fully vaccinated. All of these people are fully vaccinated. They've taken the plunge and they're all wearing masks. That's the first thing that pops out to me. You are fully vaccinated, President, and you're wearing a mask. All right, guys, get your corn pop ready. Get your corn pop ready.
Speaker of the House of Representatives standing there behind President Biden, giving a copy of his address to each one of them, which is by tradition. But as he prepares to speak, we look at this
Members
much
of
sparser
Congress,
crowd.
I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
The First Lady Jill Biden there. We saw a moment ago the second gentleman, husband of Vice President.
There you go. Take off the mask. There you go.
Doug
Dr.
Emhoff.
Jill.
Well, we will hear applause tonight.
Thank you.
Let's listen.
What's up, everybody? Filing in. Make sure you hit that
Talk
like
over
button.
President. Let's
Get
listen.
your corn pop ready. Feels like the Super Bowl.
Mitch and Chuck will understand it's good to be almost home. Down the hall. Anyway, thank you all. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President. No president has ever said those words from this podium. No president has ever said those words. And it's about time.
Yes, sir. Inclusivity. Even though she's unqualified.
First Lady, I'm her husband.
Dr. Jill.
Second gentleman, Chief Justice, members of the United States Congress and the Cabinet, distinguished guests, my fellow Americans. While the setting tonight is familiar, this gathering is just a little bit different. Reminder of the extraordinary times we're in. Throughout our history, presidents have come to this chamber to speak to Congress, to the nation, and to the world, to declare war, to celebrate peace, to announce new plans and possibilities. Tonight, I come to talk about crisis and opportunity, about rebuilding the nation, revitalizing our democracy, and winning the future for America. I stand here tonight, one day shy of the 100th day of my administration. 100 days since I took the oath of office and lifted my hand off our family Bible and inherited a nation, we all did, that was in crisis. The worst pandemic in a century, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Now, after just 100 days, I can report to the nation, America is on the move again.
Yeah. Yes. We can move forward. Oh, my goodness. What a garbage intro.
Peril into possibility, crisis to opportunity, setbacks into strength. We all know life can knock us down, but in America, we never, ever, ever stay down. Americans always get up. Today, that's what we're doing. America's rising anew, choosing hope over fear, truth over lies, and
Truth
light
over facts.
After 100 days of rescue and renewal, America is ready for a takeoff, in my view. We're working again, dreaming again, discovering again, and leading the world again. We have shown each other and the world that there's no quit in America, none. 100 days ago, America's house was on fire.
Here we
had
go.
to act. And thanks to the extraordinary leadership of Speaker Pelosi, Majority Leader Schumer, and the overwhelming support of the American people, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, we did act. Together, we passed the American Rescue Plan, one of the most consequential rescue packages in American history. We're already seeing the results.
You guys think Nancy Pelosi is going to tear it up? She's going to tear up pull the old, tear the address?
After I promised we'd get 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots into people's arms in 100 days, we will have provided over 220 million COVID shots in those 100 days.
I'm not getting it. You can if you want. I'm not getting it.
We're marshaling, with your help, everyone's help, we're marshaling every federal resource. We've gotten vaccines to nearly 40,000 pharmacies and over 700 community health centers where the poorest of the poor can be reached. We're setting up community vaccination sites, developing mobile units to get to hard-to-reach communities. Today, 90% of Americans now live within 5 miles of a vaccination site. Everyone over the age of 16, everyone is now eligible to get vaccinated right now, right away. Go get vaccinated, America.
No, thank you.
Get the vaccination. They're available. You're eligible now.
No, thank you. Nuh-uh, not me.
When I was sworn in on January 20th, less than 1% of the seniors in America are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. 100 days later, 70% of seniors in America over 65 are protected, fully protected. Senior deaths from COVID-19 are down 80% since January, down 80% because of all of you. And more than half of all the adults in America have gotten at least one shot. A mass vaccination center in Glendale, Arizona, I asked the nurse, I said, "What's it like?" She looked at me and she said, "It's like every shot is giving a dose of hope." Is her phrase, a dose of hope. A dose of hope for an educator in Florida was a child suffering from an autoimmune disease. Wrote to me, said she was worried about bringing the virus home. She said she then got vaccinated at a large site in her car. She said she sat in her car when she got vaccinated and just cried out of joy.
Yeah, because all the propaganda.
Parents
make you think you're on a
death. Smiles on their kids' faces.
You would be on a deathbed.
Because the teachers and school bus drivers and cafeteria workers have been vaccinated. Grandparents hugging their children and grandchildren instead of pressing hands against a window to say goodbye.
Now that is inhumane. That was forced by the government. That people can't be with their loved ones as they pass. That's sick. That happened because the government overreached and these states wanted to stop. And I know I paused this, but it's sickening to me that there were elderly people here in this country who had to die alone because of the push, the fear narrative of COVID-19. And they still want to peddle it today. These two people should not be wearing a mask. Fully vaccinated, fully vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And yet they want to roll out here with the mask and talk about the crisis to opportunity is what he said. This guy's a joke to me, guys.
It means everything. Those things mean everything. You know, there's still, you all know it. You know it better than any group of Americans. There's still more work to do to beat this virus. We can't let our guard down. But tonight, I can say, because of you, the American people, our progress these past 100 days against one of the worst pandemics in history has been one of the greatest logistical achievements this country's ever seen. What else have we done in those first 100 days? We kept our commitment, Democrats and Republicans, of sending $1,400 rescue checks to 85% of American households. We've already sent more than 160 million checks out the door. It's making a difference. You'll know when you go home. For many people, it's making all the difference in the world. The single mom in Texas who wrote me, she said she couldn't work, but she said the relief check put food on the table and saved her and her son from eviction from their apartment. A grandmother in Virginia who told me she immediately took her granddaughter to the eye doctor, something she said she put off for months because she didn't have the money. One of the defining images, at least from my perspective in this crisis, has been cars lined up for miles. And not people just barely able to start those cars, nice cars. Lined up for miles.
Nice
waiting
cars.
for a box of food to be put in their trunk. I don't know about you, but I didn't ever think I'd see that in America.
What's the point of nice?
And all of this is through no fault of their own. No fault of their own. These people are in this position. That's why the rescue plan is delivering food and nutrition assistance to millions of Americans facing hunger. And hunger is down sharply already. We're also providing rental assistance. You all know this, but the American people, I want to make sure they understand. Keeping people from being evicted from their homes. Providing loans to small businesses that reopen and keep their employees on the job. During these 100 days, an additional 800,000 Americans enrolled in the Affordable Care Act when I established a special sign-up period to do that. 800,000 in that period. We're making one of the largest one-time ever investments, ever, in improving healthcare for veterans. Critical investments to address the opioid crisis. And maybe most importantly, thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we're on track to cut child poverty in America in half this year. And in the process, while this was all going on, the economy created more than 1,300,000 new jobs in 100 days. More jobs in the first 100 days than any president on record. The International Monetary Fund is now estimating our economy will grow at a rate of more than 6% this year. That'll be the fastest pace of economic growth in this country in nearly 4 decades. America's moving forward, but we can't stop now. We're in competition with China and other countries to win the 21st century. We're at a great inflection point in history. We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better. We have to compete more strenuously than we have. Throughout our history, if you think about it, public investment in infrastructure has literally transformed America, our attitudes as well as our opportunities. The Transcontinental Railroad, the interstate highways, united 2 oceans and brought a totally new age of progress to the United States of America. Universal public schools and college aid opened wide the doors of opportunity. Scientific breakthroughs took us to the moon. Now we're on Mars, discovering vaccines, gave us the internet, and so much more. These are investments we made together as one country, and investments that only the government was in a position to make. Time and again, they propel us into the future.
Maurice, what's up, my dude?
a once-in-a-generation investment in America itself.
Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make
This
sure you guys
is
hit
the
that like
largest
button.
jobs plan since World
You know,
War
the
II.
whole YouTube algorithm. Drop a
Creates
comment, hit that
jobs
like button.
to upgrade our transportation infrastructure. Jobs, modernizing our roads, bridges, highways. Jobs building ports and airports, rail corridors, transit lines. It's clean water. And today, up to 10 million homes in America and more than 400,000 schools and child care centers have pipes with lead in them, including drinking water. A clear and present danger to our children's health.
That's systemically racist.
American Jobs Plan creates jobs replacing 100% of the nation's lead pipes and service lines, so every American can drink clean water. And the process will create thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs.
Maurice, thank you so much for that comment.
It creates jobs connecting every American with high-speed internet, including 35% of the rural America that still doesn't have it. It's going to help our kids and our businesses succeed in the 21st century economy. And I'm asking the Vice President to lead this effort, if she would, because I know it'll get done. Creates jobs building a modern power grid. Our grids are vulnerable to storms, hacks, catastrophic failures with tragic results, as we saw in Texas and elsewhere during the winter storms. The American Jobs Plan will create jobs that lay thousands of miles of transmission lines needed to build a resilient and fully clean grid. We can do that. Look, American Jobs Plan will help millions of people get back to their jobs and back to their careers. 2 million women have dropped out of the workforce during this pandemic. 2 million. And too often because they couldn't get the care they needed to care for their child or care for an elderly parent who needs help.
Yeah, he's over here playing crossword puzzles. This guy looks like he's catching up on a Sudoku. You know, he's playing tic-tac-toe. Yeah, he's writing in his diary. I mean, guys, this speech so far, you know, whether you like Trump or not, at least Trump was more polarizing as far as, you know, the entertainment factor. This is a bore to listen to this crap. I mean, that's why you got people in Congress sitting here like, your move. This guy's over here. I mean, this is a picture of what a Joe Biden speech will produce. A bunch of people who are fighting to pay attention. All right. I'm still waiting on him to talk about something of significance. Because right now he's talking about jobs and oh, this will get people back to work. The way you get people back to work is by allowing people to work. Think about states like California, which denied people the opportunity to eat outside, basically shut down all restaurant businesses. All of this right here is how you stop people from working. You have arbitrary things that you have to adhere to, like wearing a mask. And, you know, if you wear a mask and you get a vaccine, well, maybe then we could start the economy back up. You know, so what he has to do, what the government has to do is get out of people's way, let people work, and everybody will see that there will be a step forward. I mean, the government doesn't need to overthink it here. We don't need no get back to work plan. No, we just need people to open businesses back up because they were artificially closed. And then, as you will see, like prior 2020, you know, unemployment will be hitting record lows that we saw during the Trump administration. But of course, you know, being big Democrat Joe Biden and socialist Kamala Harris, the government has to solve this problem. It's the government's problem to solve.
100,000 families are on the Medicare waiting list right now to get home care for their aging parent or loved one with disability. If you think it's not important, check out in your own district, Democrat or Republican. Democrat or Republican voters. Their great concern, almost as much as their children, is taking care of an elderly loved one who can't be left alone. Medicaid contemplated, but this plan is going to help those families and create jobs for our caregivers with better wages and better benefits.
Unknown slaves, what's up?
Continue
What's
the cycle
up?
of growth. For too long, we've failed to use the most important word when it comes to meeting the climate crisis.
Oh gosh.
Jobs.
Jobs.
Jobs. Jobs.
Jobs. Climate crisis. Jobs. Jobs. We're gonna absolutely destroy coal, oil, and gas. We're gonna destroy those jobs, but we're gonna make new jobs, I promise.
When I think climate change, I think jobs.
Yeah.
American jobs.
Destroying
plan,
jobs.
Engineers and construction workers to work building more energy efficient buildings and homes.
Coal,
Electrical
oil,
workers,
gas,
IBM
jobs.
members installing
Coal, oil, gas,
500,000
jobs.
charging stations along our highways, so we can own the electric car market. Farmers planting cover crops so they can reduce the carbon dioxide in the air and get paid for doing it. Look, think about it. There is simply no reason why the blades for wind turbines can't be built in Pittsburgh instead of Beijing. No reason. None. No reason. So, folks, there's no reason why American workers can't lead the world in the production of electric vehicles and batteries. I mean, there is no reason. We have the capacity. We're the brightest, best trained people in the world. The American Jobs Plan is going to create millions of good paying jobs, jobs Americans can raise a family on. As my dad would then say, with a little breathing room. And all the investments in the American Job Plan will be guided by one principle: buy American. Buy American. And I might note parenthetically, that does not violate any trade agreement. It's been the law since the 30s. Buy American. American tax dollars are going to be used to buy American products made in America to create American jobs. That's the way it's supposed to be, and it will be in this administration.
Okay. All right. Let's see if that actually becomes true.
And I made it clear to all
Mr.
my
Globalization.
cabinet people, their ability to give exemptions has been strenuously limited. It will be American products. Now, I know some of you at home are wondering whether these jobs are for you. So many of you, so many of the folks I grew up with, feel left behind, forgotten, in an economy that's so rapidly changing. It's frightening. I want to speak directly to you, because you think about it. That's what people are most worried about. Can I fit in? Independent experts estimate the American Jobs Plan will add millions of jobs and trillions of dollars to economic growth in the years to come. It is a 8-year program. These are good paying jobs that can't be outsourced.
How much
Nearly
does it cost,
90%
Joe?
of the infrastructure jobs created in the American Jobs Plan do not require a college degree.
How much does it cost, Joe?
75% don't require an associate's degree.
How much does it cost,
The
Joe?
American Jobs Plan is a blue-collar blueprint to build America. That's what it is.
Do you think he's going to take time to talk about how much money
And it
his proposal is going to
recognizes
cost?
Something I've always said in this chamber and the other. Good guys and women on Wall Street, but Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class. So that's why I'm calling on Congress to pass Protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, and send it to my desk so we can support the right to unionize. And by the way, while you're thinking about sending things to my desk, let's raise the minimum wage to $15.
Yes, let's raise the minimum wage so that it could absolutely wreck the least skilled of us.
No one working 40 hours a week should live below the poverty line.
Guys, all right. So obviously, you've heard of, if you haven't, you need to go educate yourself. Thomas Sowell and other economists have talked about this over and over and over. $15 minimum wage, federal minimum wage, is going to deplete the workforce. Think of all of the people who are not worth $15 an hour. Think about the most unskilled people in society, the young person, the 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. They don't deserve to get paid $15 an hour. So if you increase, take, for example, down here in the South, public supermarkets. You take public supermarkets and you tell public supermarkets you have to pay your baggers $15 an hour. Really? You have to pay your 17, 18, 19-year-old cashier $15 an hour. You know what's going to happen? Those jobs are going to decrease because it's an added expense on the corporation. Oh my goodness. So he wants to talk about, federal minimum wage being raised to $15. The economists that I trust, like Thomas Sowell, have already given much evidence as that it's just not going to work. It's going to raise the expenses of the corporation, and as a result of raising the expenses, they're going to cut jobs, which is then going to reduce the amount of opportunity for the least skilled of us. But you know what? Joe Biden doesn't care about that. You need to be making $15 an hour.
We need to ensure greater equity and opportunity for women. And while we're doing this, let's get the Paycheck Fairness Act to my desk as well. Equal pay. It's been much too long. And if you wonder whether it's too long, look behind me. And finally, American Jobs Plan will be the biggest increase in non-defense research and development on record. We'll see more technological change. And some of you know more about this than I do. We'll see more technological change in the next 10 years than we saw in the last 50. That's how rapidly artificial intelligence and so much more is changing. And we're falling behind the competition with the rest of the world. Decades ago, we used to invest 2% of our gross domestic product in America, 2% of our gross domestic product in research and development. Today, Mr. Secretary, that's less than 1%. China and other countries are closing in fast. We have to develop and dominate the products and technologies of the future. Advanced batteries, biotechnology, computer chips, clean energy. The Secretary of Defense can tell you, and those of you who work in national security issues know, the Defense Department has an agency called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The people who set up before I came.
Yeah, guys, just go ahead, grab yourself, a nice wine. I'm drinking a Malbec tonight. Me and my wife, our favorite wine is Malbec, nice red. You might need something to get through this. You might need something. So as we take a quick pause, as we take a quick sip, a sip break, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you guys drop a comment. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Join the journey to 5K subs. All right, because more commentary to come. But before that, we have to get past this. I would call this a below average attempt at an address so far. So let's see if he picks it up.
Came here, and that's been a long time ago. to develop breakthroughs that enhance our national security. That's their only job. And it's a semi-separate agency. It's under the Defense Department. It's led to everything from the discovery of the internet to GPS and so much more. It's enhanced our security. The National Institute of Health, the NIH, I believe, should create a similar advanced research projects agency for health. And here's what it would do. It would have a singular purpose: to develop breakthroughs to prevent, detect, and treat diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer. I'll still never forget when we passed the cancer proposal the last year as vice president. Almost $9 million going to NIH. And they've excused the point of personal privilege. I'll never forget you standing, Mitch, and saying, "Name it after my deceased son." It meant a lot. But so many of us have deceased sons, daughters, and relatives who died of cancer. I can think of no more worthy investment. I know of nothing that is more bipartisan. So let's end cancer as we know it. It's within our power. It's within our power to do it.
You ever heard somebody promise something or assert something that they can't back up?
Investments in jobs,
That's that right there.
like the ones we're talking about, have often had bipartisan support in the past. Vice President Harris and I met regularly in the Oval Office with Democrats and Republicans and discussed the jobs plan. And I applaud a group of Republican senators who just put forward their own proposal. So let's get to work. I wanted to lay out before the Congress my plan before we got into the deep discussions. I'd like to meet with those who have ideas that are different, they think are better. I welcome those ideas. But the rest of the world is not waiting for us. I just want to be clear. From my perspective, doing nothing is not an option.
You got to speak up against racism. Silence is violence. Oh, wait. We're not talking about that? Okay, my bad. We're not there yet.
We can't be so busy competing with one another that we forget the competition that we have with the rest of the world to win the 21st century. Secretary Blinken can tell you, I spent a lot of time with President Xi. Traveled over 17,000 miles with him. Spent, they tell me, over 24 hours in private discussions with him. When he called to congratulate him, we had a 2-hour discussion. He's deadly earnest about becoming the most significant, consequential nation in the world. He and others, autocrats, think that democracy can't compete in the 21st century with autocracies because it takes too long to get consensus. To win that competition for the future, in my view, we also need to make a once-in-a-generation investment in our families and our children. That's why I've introduced the American Families Plan tonight, which addresses 4 of the biggest challenges facing American families and in turn America. First is access to good education. When this nation made 12 years of public education universal in the last century, it made us the best educated, best prepared nation in the world. It's, I believe, the overwhelming reason that propelled us to where we got in the 20th century. But the world's caught up or catching up. They're not waiting. I would say parenthetically, if we were sitting down, we set a bipartisan committee together and said, okay, we're going to decide what we do in terms of government providing for free education. I wonder whether we'd think, as we did in the 20th century, that 12 years is enough in the 21st century. I doubt it. 12 years is no longer enough today. to compete with the rest of the world in the 21st century. That's why my American Families Plan guarantees 4 additional years of public education for every person in America, starting as early as we can.
All right, you guys got to understand, and I know you guys do. There's no evidence to back up what he's saying. 12 years is not enough. What do you mean 12 years is not enough? 12 years is more than enough, because those who want to pursue school know it after 12 years. So then they opt into, 13th, 14th grade, freshman, sophomore year in college, that stuff. And at the end of the day, we are not a socialist country. We should not be throwing money at universities and colleges to fund a socialist idea. That is what Joe Biden is pushing right here. We should universalize education, because if you universalize it, then it's going to increase the final product of student. And that's simply not even factual. It's not proven by any data. And he's literally up here just talking about what he thinks is best. 12 years is not enough. Let's go to 16. 16 is enough. Well, how about the people who go through 12 years and they simply don't want? They simply don't want to go to school. They're not going to major in something to move the country forward. It doesn't make sense to throw money at this universal socialist idea of free college. It doesn't make sense, because the problem is you're saying he has the assumption that cost of college is what is keeping people back from going to college. That is not true. Some people don't want to go to college. And then after you go to college, that doesn't guarantee you're going to land a good job if you choose journalism, if you choose education. So the government still can't choose. The government still can't fix the decision making that the individual has to make. And at the end of the day, if you go to college, you better pick something profitable, or I hope you like making pennies and a 0% ROI, return on investment, for all of the student loan debt you took out. This is a terrible idea. Invest trillions of dollars to fund people, grown people, 19, 20, 21, 22, fund them to go to college? How about we take care of our own self and stop wanting the government to take care of us? The democratic socialist vision is alive and well with this administration.
The great universities in this country have conducted studies of the last 10 years. It shows that adding 2 years of universal high-quality preschool for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old, no matter what background they come from, puts them in the position to be able to compete all the way through 12 years, and increases exponentially their prospect of graduating and going on beyond graduation. Research shows when a young child goes to school, not daycare, they're far more likely to graduate from high school and go to college or something after high school. When you add 2 years of free community college on top of that, you begin to change the dynamic. We can do that.
Community college isn't even that much money.
And we'll increase Pell Grants and invest in historical Black colleges and universities, tribal colleges, minority-serving institutions.
I mean, guys, look at your cost per tuition, the tuition cost at your local community college. In Tampa, the most known one is Hillsborough Community College. The last time I checked, a few months ago, the cost for tuition was like $103 per credit hour. That means each class is $300. That's not a lot of money. If you don't want to come out of pocket or take out a small loan or work while you're in college to be at a community college, then you just don't want it bad enough, because community college is not overpriced to begin with. So to throw that financial burden onto us, the taxpayer, it's ridiculous to me, because Hillsborough Community College, okay, $100 per credit hour. If you can't afford a $300 class, all right, if you can't do that, then you should not go to college. If you can't work through community college to reduce your student loan debt, then don't go to college. If you have no goal in utilizing your AA to make some money moving forward, you should go to college. You should not go to college. So making it free doesn't make it better. And this is the presumption that a socialistic democratic vision asserts into reality. They say, oh, if it was free, it would be better.
Institutions. The reason is they don't have the endowments. But their students are just as capable of learning about cybersecurity, just as capable of learning about metallurgy, all the things that are going on that provide those jobs of the future. Jill is a community college professor who teaches today as First Lady. She's long said, she's long
Dr. Jill.
Once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Joe, any country that out-educates us is going to outcompete us. She'll be deeply involved in leading this effort. Thank you, Jill. Second thing we need, American Families Plan will provide access to quality, affordable child care. We guarantee
Yep, that just sounds like a lot more money for the taxpayer. Elizabeth Warren likes it.
Will pay no more than 7% of their income for high quality care for children up to the age of 5. The most hard-pressed working families won't have to spend a dime. Third, the American Families Plan will finally provide up to 12 weeks of paid leave and medical leave, family medical leave. We're one of the few industrial countries in the world. No one should have to choose between a job and a paycheck, or taking care of themselves and their loved ones, or parent or spouse or child. And fourth, the American Family Plan puts directly into the pockets of millions of Americans. In March, we expanded tax credit for every child in a family, up to $3,000 per child if you're under 6 years of age. Over 6 years of age. And $3,600 for children over 6 years of age. With 2 parents, 2 kids, that's $7,200 in the pockets that are going to help take care of your family. And that will help more than 65 million children and help cut child care poverty in half. And we can afford it.
We can afford it. You can afford it.
We did that.
It's your money.
In the last piece of legislation we passed. But let's extend that child care tax credit at least through the end of 2025. The American Rescue Plan lowered health care premiums for 9 million Americans who buy their coverage under the Affordable Care Act. I know that's really popular this side of the aisle. But let's make that provision permanent so their premiums don't go back up.
Yes, baby. Expand socialist health care. All I hear is trillions upon trillions of dollars of more money taken from the U.S. taxpayer.
Other critical priorities for American families. The Affordable Care Act has been a lifeline for millions of Americans, protecting people with pre-existing conditions, protecting women's health, and the pandemic has demonstrated how badly it's needed. Let's lower deductibles for working families. on the Affordable Care Act. And let's lower prescription drug costs. We know how to do this. The last president had that as an objective. We all know how outrageously expensive drugs are in America. In fact, we pay the highest prescription drug prices of anywhere in the world, right here in America. Nearly 3 times for the same drug, nearly 3 times what other countries pay. We have to change that, and we can. Let's do what we talked about for all the years I was down here in this body, in Congress. Let's give Medicare the power to save hundreds of billions of dollars by negotiating lower drug prescription prices.
Ted Cruz ain't buying it.
By the way, it won't just help people on Medicare. Lower prescription drug costs for everyone. And the money we save, which is billions of dollars, can go to strengthen the Affordable Care Act and expand Medicare coverage benefits without costing taxpayers an additional penny. It's within our power to do it. Let's do it now. We've talked about it long enough. Democrats and Republicans, let's get it done this year. This is all about a simple premise. Health care should be a right, not a privilege in America.
Yeah, find that in the Constitution.
How do we pay for my jobs and family plan?
That's not in the Bill of Rights.
I made it clear
Just saying.
we can do it without increasing the deficits. Let's start with what I will not do. I will not impose any tax increase on people making less than $400,000. But it's time for corporate America and the wealthiest 1% of Americans to just begin to pay their fair share. Just their fair share.
Bye-bye, jobs. They're going to leave America.
Sometimes I have arguments with my friends in the Democratic Party. I think you should be able to become a billionaire and a millionaire, but pay your fair share. A recent study shows that 55 of the nation's biggest corporations paid 0 federal tax last year. Those 55 corporations made in excess of $40 billion in profit. A lot of companies also evade taxes through tax havens in Switzerland and Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. And they benefit from tax loopholes and deductions for offshoring jobs and shifting profits overseas. It's not right. We're going to reform corporate taxes so they pay their fair share and help pay for the public investments their businesses will benefit from as well.
Oh, gosh. Maxine looks bad.
We're going to reward work, not just wealth. We take the top tax bracket for the wealthiest 1% of Americans, those making over $400,000 or more, back up to where it was when George W. Bush was president, when he started, 39.6%. That's where it was when George W. was president. We're going to get rid of the loopholes, allow Americans to make more than $1 million a year and pay a lower tax rate on their capital gains than Americans who receive a paycheck. We're only going to affect 0.3% of all Americans by that action, 0.3%. And the IRS is going to crack down on millionaires and billionaires who cheat on their taxes. It's estimated to be billions of dollars by think tanks that are left, right, and center. I'm not looking to punish anybody, but I will not add a tax burden, additional tax burden to the middle class in this country. They're already paying enough. I believe what I propose is fair, fiscally responsible, and it raises revenue to pay for the plans I propose and will create millions of jobs that will grow the economy and enhance our financial standing in the country. When you hear someone say, They don't want to raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% or corporate America. Ask them, whose taxes you want to raise?
Nobody's.
Instead, who's they going to cut?
Everyone's.
Look, the big tax cut of 2017. Remember, it was supposed to pay for itself. That was how it was sold. And generate vast economic growth. Instead, it added $2 trillion to the deficit. It was a huge windfall for corporate America and those at the very top. Instead of using the tax saving to raise wages and invest in research and development, it poured billions of dollars into the pockets of CEOs. In fact, the pay gap between CEOs and their workers is now among the largest in history. According to one study, CEOs make 320 times what the average worker in their corporation makes. Used to be below 100. The pandemic has only made things worse. 20 million Americans lost their job in the pandemic, working and middle-class Americans. At the same time, roughly 650 billionaires in America saw their net worth increase by more than $1 trillion in the same exact period. Let me say it again. 650 people increased their wealth by more than $1 trillion during this pandemic. And they're now worth more than $4 trillion. My fellow Americans, trickle down. Trickle down economics has never worked. And it's time to grow the economy from the bottom and the middle out.
I mean, I got to give him credit. He just took a Marxist idea, because all he did was use the billionaires and the trillionaires as, let me pause this real quick. All he did right there was use the billionaires and trillionaires, or the people that come together and make up, trillions of dollars, whatever. All he's doing is leveraging them to make uneducated people think that these people are that wealthy because they are capitalizing off of your ignorance. The problem in the economy is not the fact that Jeff Bezos has been lining his pocket. The problem with the economy is that it has been artificially shut down. And believe it or not, Joe Biden, this is a capitalist society, which means if you don't have the right skills, you don't get paid for what you produce. Whatever you produce is going to be what you get paid for. So what he did was he just repackaged the Marxist philosophy of, oh, look at what these wealthy people have and look at what you don't have. It's repackaged Marxism. And for people that don't really understand what's going on, it sounds great to the ear and it sounds terrible. What do you mean 650 Americans, increased their wealth by billions of dollars? The Jeff Bezos of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the United States. Well, while they're getting richer, we're getting poorer. It must be because the government isn't taxing them enough. No. That is not what's going on here. That is simply not what's going on, but that is what's being sold indirectly, is that you're not prospering and it's somebody else's fault. They're prospering because they're cheating the system. It's democratic propaganda. Do you want to make more money? Yes or no? Then increase your skills. If you want to make more money, then get better skills. Period. You, me, they, them, him, her, boy, girl, male, female. You want to make more money? Increase your skills. But no, the democratic socialist vision is that the government has to come in and give everybody their fair share. Everybody deserves their fair share, even though fair is not a word that is necessarily the same for you and me. It's what I think to be fair. Oh my goodness. Jumping into some of these. All right, Christine. Hello. It's pretty depressing having him as our president. You know what, Christine? In moments like this, just we have to just rejoice in the blessings that we have in our life. He is a terrible president. He is a terrible leader. But at the end of the day, what you do, what I do, what we do in our household is what we have to rejoice over. The blessings God has given us. So do not let Joe Biden bring you down. Polo, this guy is such a puppet. Yes, he is. He's up there. You know, he's the guise of a moderate, but his agenda is radical. All right, Sunshine Happy Lady, agree with you 100%. Get better work skills to earn more money. Thank you. That is what we need to tell the next generation of people growing up. No, do not buy into this recycled Marxist philosophy that the people at the top, I mean, why do we care about 650 people who are billionaires and that have grown their wealth? Why? I don't care about them. Let them get more rich. Get more rich. Go ahead. Get more rich. You obviously found a niche. You have honed your skills. You have found a market. You have learned how to live. All right, but why should I care? As a low middle class individual, why should I care about the 650 people in America that grew their wealth by billions of dollars? Why do I care about them? They don't matter to my life. What matters to my life is the skills that I develop. If I want to make more money, maybe I need to make better content. Maybe I need to make more content. Maybe I need to switch a job. You know, that last part really, he went on and on. I'm gonna play the video back, but that last part, all I heard was Marxist, Marxist, Marxist. They are keeping you. They're stealing all the wealth because they're cheating tax codes. Okay, thanks, Joe.
What I'm proposing will help create millions of jobs and generate historic economic growth. These are among the highest values investments we can make as a nation. I've often said our greatest strength is the power of our example, not just the example of our power. In my conversations with world leaders, and I've spoke over 38, 40 of them now, I've made it known that America's back. And you know what they say? The comment I hear most of all from them? So they say, we see America's back, but for how long? But for how long?
4 years, baby. Trump 2024.
We have to show not just that we're back, but we're back to stay. And that we aren't going to go it alone. We're going to do it by leading with our allies. No one nation can deal with all the crises of our time, from terrorism to nuclear proliferation, mass migration, cybersecurity, climate change, as well as experiencing what we're experiencing now, the pandemics. There's no wall high enough to keep any virus out. And our own vaccine supply, as it grows to meet our needs, and we're meeting them, will become an arsenal for vaccines for other countries, just as America is an arsenal for democracy for the world, and in consequence, influence the world. But every American will have access before that occurs. Every American will have access to be fully covered by COVID-19 from the vaccines we have. Look, the climate crisis is not our fight alone. It's a global fight.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go with the climate.
The United States accounts, as all of you know, less than 15% of carbon emissions. The rest of the world accounts for 85%. That's why I kept my commitment to rejoin the Paris Accord, because if we do everything perfectly, it's not going to only matter. I kept my commitment to convene a climate summit right here in America with all the major economies of the world: China, Russia, India, European Union. And I said I'd do it in my first 100 days. I want to be very blunt about it. My attempt was to make sure that the world could see there was a consensus that we are at an inflection point in history, The consensus is if we act to save the planet, we can create millions of jobs and economic growth and opportunity to raise the standard of living of almost everyone around the world. If you watched any of it and you were all busy, I'm sure you didn't have much time. That's what virtually every nation said, even the ones that aren't doing their fair share. The investments I propose tonight also advance the foreign policy, in my view, that benefits the middle class. That means making sure every nation plays by the same rules in the global economy, including China. In my discussion with President Xi, I told him, we welcome the competition. We're not looking for conflict, but I made absolutely clear that we will defend America's interest across the board. America will stand up to unfair trade practices that undercut American workers and American industries, like subsidies from state to state-owned operations and enterprises, and the theft of American technology and intellectual property. I also told President Xi that we'll maintain a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific, just as we do with NATO and Europe, not to start a conflict, but to prevent one. I told them what I've said to many world leaders, that America will not back away from our commitments, our commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms and to our alliances. And I pointed out to him, no responsible American president could remain silent when basic human rights are being so blatantly violated. An American president has to represent the essence of what our country stands for. America is an idea, the most unique idea in history. We are created, all of us, equal. It's who we are. And we cannot walk away from that principle and, in fact, say we're dealing with the American idea. With regard to Russia, I know
I don't even know what
some of
he
you,
just said right
but I
there.
made very clear to Putin that we're not going to seek escalation,
Excuse me.
but their actions will have consequences. They turn out to be true, and they turned out to be true. So I responded directly and proportionally to Russia's interference in our elections and the cyber attacks on our government and our business. They did both of these things, and I told them we would respond, and we have. But we can also cooperate when it's our mutual interest. We did it when we extended the New START Treaty on nuclear arms, and we're working to do it on climate change. But he understands we will respond. On Iran and North Korea, nuclear programs that present serious threats to American security and the security of the world. We're going to be working closely with our allies to address the threats posed by both of these countries through diplomacy as well as stern deterrence. And American leadership means ending the forever war in Afghanistan. We have
Yeah, speaking of the war in Afghanistan, why has he not pulled the troops out yet?
fighting force in the history of the
Why
world.
is he waiting till September
I'm the first
11th?
president in 40 years and knows what it means to have a son serving in a war zone. Today, we have service members serving in the same war zone as their parents did. We have service members in Afghanistan who are not yet born on 9/11. The war in Afghanistan, as we remember the debates here, were never meant to be multi-generational undertakings of nation building. We went to Afghanistan to get the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. And we said we would follow Osama bin Laden to the gates of hell to do it. If you've been in the upper Konar Valley, you've kind of seen the gates of hell. And we delivered justice to bin Laden. We degraded the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And after 20 years of valor, and sacrifice, it's time to bring those troops home. Look, Even as we do, we'll maintain over-the-horizon capacity to suppress future threats to the homeland. Make no mistake, in 20 years, terrorism has metastasized. The threat has evolved way beyond Afghanistan. Those of you in the intelligence committees, the foreign relations committee, defense committees, you know well, we have to remain vigilant against the threats to the United States wherever they come from. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in Yemen, Syria, Somalia, other places in Africa, in the Middle East, and beyond. And we won't ignore what our intelligence agencies have determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism.
Oh, gosh. Here we
We're not gonna
go.
ignore that either.
Here we
My
go.
fellow Americans, look.
Black
come together
supremacy is
to heal the soul of this
terrorism.
nation. It was nearly a year
Black
ago before her
supremacy
father's
is
funeral
just as dangerous as white
when I
supremacy.
spoke with Gianna Floyd, George Floyd's young daughter. She's a little tyke, so I was kneeling down to talk to her so I could look her in the eye. She looked at me, she said, "My daddy changed the world."
Yeah, he took a lot of fentanyl
Well,
and meth.
After the
Thank you,
conviction of
George.
George Floyd's murderer,
Thank you,
you can
George.
see how right she was if we have the courage to act as a Congress. We've all seen the knee of injustice on the neck of Black Americans.
The
Now's
neck.
our opportunity to make some real progress. The vast majority of men and women wearing a uniform and a badge serve our communities, and they serve them honorably. I know them. I know they want.
Oh, Maxine, sit down. She looks so bad. Get more confrontational.
know they want to help meet this moment as well. My fellow Americans, we have to come together to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the people they serve, to root out systemic racism in our criminal justice system, and to enact police reform in George Floyd's name that passed the House already. I know Republicans have their own ideas and are engaged in a very productive discussions with Democrats in the Senate. We need to work together to find a consensus. But let's get it done next month by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death.
Thank you, George, for being a sacrifice, George. You were a sacrifice for justice, George.
The country
Amen.
supports this reform.
So
And
garbage.
Congress should act. We have a giant opportunity to bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice, real justice. And with the plans outlined tonight, we have a real chance to root out systemic racism that plagues America and American lives in other ways. A chance to deliver real equity.
Guys, I mean, I've been saying, I'm going to continue to say this over and over and over, because what he is selling is a false idea. There is no such thing as uprooting systemic racism in 2021, because there is not systemic racism in 2021. It's simply not there. Think about what he used to leverage this part of the speech. George Floyd. George Floyd was not a victim of systemic racism, and yet he is the bedrock of this narrative. I mean, George Floyd didn't die because a racist cop decided to kill him. Nobody has evidence of that. But what they're going to do is they're going to push the narrative, because people that are in the tribalism of race, people that see white cop bad, black man virtuous, even though he's high as a kite on meth and fentanyl, even though he passed a fake $20 bill, even though he resisted police, even though in 2019 when he got pulled over, he stuffed a whole bunch of drugs in his mouth, similar to what he did before what happened in 2020. Even though all that happened, it was systemic racism that got George Floyd. That's what got George. There's what these three are not going to do. They are not going to stop what happened to Ma'Khia Bryant. They're not going to stop that, because At the end of the day, we live in a country that has what, 350 million people or so? 300 million. Let's round down. 300 million. Are we ever going to be able to acknowledge and accept the fact that a few hundred people are going to die because of the police, and not because of the police, because the police have to take them out because they're not complying and they're being criminals, which is why most of them are justified. We live in a land of millions. And yet what these three are doing is they're polarizing the death of a few to make it seem like there is a real problem out there. The only people that fall for this are the people who are in the tribalism of race. They see life through the lens of race. So when they see three people talking about systemic racism, they just eat it up. It's corn pop. It's good tasting corn pop, baby.
Good jobs, good schools, affordable housing, clean air, clean water, being able to generate wealth and pass it down through generations because you have access to purchase a house. Real opportunities in the lives of more Americans, Black, white, Latino, Asian Americans, Native Americans. Look, I also want to thank the United States Senate for voting 94-1 to pass the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act to protect Asian American and Pacific Islanders.
Which is not going to do anything.
Decisively. You can see on television the viciousness of the hate crimes we've seen over the past year and for too long. I urge the House to do the same and send that legislation to my desk, which I will gladly, anxiously sign. I also hope Congress will get to my desk the Equality Act to protect LGBTQ Americans.
Oh, please keep that down. We do not want,
watching at home, especially young
we
people.
do not
You're
want
so brave,
boys
I want to know your
competing with
president has
girls.
your back. Another thing, let's authorize the Violence Against Women Act, which has been law for 27 years. $27 ago, I wrote it. It'll close the act that has to be authorized now, will close the boyfriend loophole to keep guns out of the hands of abusers. The court order said this is an abuser. You can't own a gun. It's to close that loophole that existed. You know, it's estimated that 50 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner every month in America. 50 a month.
Viking night. Yes, yes, yes. We're in a world of sinners, bad apples in every crowd. I said the same thing about such a huge population. Stuff's gonna happen.
I need not tell anyone this, but gun violence has become an epidemic in America.
No, it has not.
The flag at the White House was still flying at half-mast for the 8 victims of the mass shooting in Georgia, when 10 more lives were taken in a mass shooting in Colorado. And in the week in between those two events, 250 other Americans were shot dead in the streets of America. 250 shot dead. I know how hard it is to make progress on this issue. In the 90s, we passed universal background checks, a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines that hold 100 rounds that can be fired off in seconds. We beat the NRA. Mass shootings and gun violence declined. Check out the report over 10 years. But in the early 2000s, the law expired. We've seen daily bloodshed since. I'm not saying if the law continued, we wouldn't see bloodshed. More than 2 weeks ago in the Rose Garden, surrounded by some of the bravest people I know, the survivors and families who lost loved ones to gun violence, I laid out several of the Department of Justice actions that are being taken to impact on this epidemic. One of them is banning so-called ghost guns. These are homemade guns built from a kit that includes directions how to finish the firearm. The parts have no serial numbers, so they show up at crime scenes and they can't be traced. The buyers of these ghost gun kits aren't required to pass any background check. Anyone, from a criminal or terrorist, could buy this kit and within 30 minutes have a weapon that's lethal, but no more. And I'll do everything in my power to protect the American people from this epidemic of gun violence, but it's time for Congress to act as well. Look, I don't want to become confrontational, but we need more Senate Republicans to join the overwhelming majority of Democratic colleagues and close the loopholes required in background check purchases of guns. We need a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And don't tell me it can't be done. We did it before and it worked. Talk to most responsible gun owners and hunters. They'll tell you there's no possible justification for having 100 rounds in a weapon. What do you think, deer are wearing Kevlar vests? They'll tell you that there are too many people today who are able to buy a gun, but shouldn't be able to buy a gun. These kinds of reasonable reforms have overwhelming support from the American people, including many gun owners. The country supports reform, and Congress should act.
Why is it
This
easier?
shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
Yeah. All right.
And
Thanks,
no
Joe.
amendment to the Constitution.
Thanks, Joe.
Is absolutely
Why is it easier to vote for a president, no signature, no verification? Why is it that easy to vote for a president of the United States, but now this president wants to come up and talk about restrictions? And then when Republicans want to clean up the obvious holes in election process, like Georgia, Governor Kent what did what he did. Everybody called it racist. Everybody called it Jim Crow. This president called it Jim Crow. Why is it easier to buy? Why is it easier to vote in America, but yet we want to focus on the accessibility of firearms? Guys, firearms don't kill people. People kill people. It is the human heart that kills people. You got to realize this as Joe Biden's rambling, and I don't even care what he's saying right now. Before guns were actually a viable weapon, thousands and millions and billions of people died. Think about all of the wars before guns were even here. How did people die? They got stabbed to death. How did people die? They got rocks thrown out their head. How did people die? They got the crap beaten out of them. At the end of the day, guys, people are going to kill people. This is not a gun issue. This is a depraved heart, criminal heart issue. And America's morals has been backsliding for years. So taking the gun out of the equation is just going to make the sinner think a little bit different on how to take out their target. It's not the gun, Joe. It's the person.
Congress needs to pass legislation this year to finally secure protection for dreamers. The young people have only known America as their home. And permanent protection for immigrants who are here on temporary protective status who came from countries beset by man-made and natural-made violence and disaster, as well as a pathway to citizenship for foreign workers who put food on our tables. Look, immigrants have done so much for America during this pandemic and throughout our history. The country supports immigration reform. We should act. Let's argue over it. Let's debate it. But let's act. And if we truly want to restore the soul of America, we need to protect the sacred right to vote. Most people More people voted in the last presidential election than any time in American history.
Yep.
In the middle of the worst pandemic ever.
That's because Democrats made
It
it
should be
easy to
celebrated.
do so.
Instead, it's being attacked. Congress should pass H.R. 1 and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and send it to my desk right away.
No, it should not. Other
country
states need to
supports it.
adopt what Florida
Congress
and
should
Georgia
act now.
are doing.
Look, in conclusion, as we gather here tonight, the image of a violent mob assaulting this Capitol, desecrating our democracy, remain vivid in all our minds. Lives were put at risk, many of your lives.
Black Lives Matter.
Lives were lost.
What about Black Lives
Extraordinary
Matter?
courage was summoned. The insurrection was an existential crisis, a test of whether our democracy could survive, and it did.
What about Black Lives
But
Matter,
the struggle
Joe?
is far from over. The question of whether our democracy will long endure is both ancient and urgent. As old as our republic, still vital today. Can our democracy deliver on its promise that all of us, created equal in the image of God, had a chance to lead lives of dignity, respect, and possibility? Can our democracy deliver the most pressing needs of our people? Can our democracy overcome the lies, anger, hate, and fears that have pulled us apart? America's adversaries, the autocrats of the world, are betting we can't. And I promise you, they're betting we can't. They believe we're too full of anger and division and rage. They look at the images of the mob that assaulted the Capitol as proof that the sun is setting on American democracy.
Yeah, what about
they're
the
wrong.
rage of Black Lives
You know it,
Matter,
I know
Joe?
it. But we have to
That
prove
happened
them
for
wrong.
a whole year.
We have to prove democracy still works, that our government still works, and we can deliver for our people. In our first 100 days together, we've acted to restore people's faith in democracy to deliver. We're vaccinating the nation. We're creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs. We're delivering real results to people. They can see it, feel it in their own lives. Opening doors of opportunity, guaranteeing some more fairness and justice. That's the essence of America. That's democracy in action. Our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government. You and I. Not some force in a distant capital. Not some powerful force that we have no control over. It's us. It's we the people. In another era, when our democracy was tested, Franklin Roosevelt reminded us, in America, we do our part. We all do our part. That's all I'm asking. That we do our part, all of us. If we do that, we will meet the center challenge of the age by proving that democracy is durable and strong. Autocrats will not win the future. We will. America will. And the future belongs to America. As I stand here tonight before you in a new and vital hour of life and democracy of our nation, and I can say with absolute confidence, I have never been more confident or optimistic about America. Not because I'm president, because what's happening with the American people. We've stared into the abyss of insurrection and autocracy, pandemic and pain, and we, the people, did not flinch. At the very moment our adversaries were certain we'd pull apart and fail, we came together, we united. With light and hope, we summoned a new strength, new resolve to position us to win the competition of the 21st century. On our way to a union more perfect, more prosperous, and more just, as one people, one nation, and one America. Folks, as I told every world leader I've ever met with over the years, it's never, ever, ever been a good bet to bet against America, and it still isn't. We're the United States of America. There's not a single thing, nothing beyond our capacity. We can do whatever we set our minds to if we do it together.
Say it, Joe.
So let's begin to
Say
get
it, Joe.
together. God bless you all, and may
Say
God
it,
protect
Joe.
our troops. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience sitting here listening to my garbage
That was
speech.
President Joe Biden delivering.
Look at him,
his
look at him,
first session to a
elbowing.
joint
You're all
session of
vaccinated, but you're
his first
elbowing.
speech to a
You're all
a joint
vaccinated,
session of
but you're
Congress. It
elbowing.
lasted an hour and 5 minutes with many interruptions
Goodness.
for applause. Historic in that he was standing in front of for the first time ever, two
Yep,
women.
all historic.
One, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. The other, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. You see him making his way out of the House chamber, socially distanced, only 200 people in a chamber, which can hold up
Yep.
to 1,600. Let me quickly
Oh,
turn to
Maxine.
my colleague, Lisa
Oh,
Desjardins,
gosh.
who's been watching the president's address from the balcony there in the House. Lisa, tell us about what you saw from inside that room.
Let's just listen to what Lisa
Well, I'm
has to say
looking
real
down
quick.
now on the president talking, and there's already a line of people waiting to talk to him. You see there Bernie Sanders next to him, but there's a line going up the aisle of several senators hoping to talk to him. I don't know if that'll happen. But I have to say, this was an incredibly unusual speech and feeling in the chamber. There was not the electricity that you usually have with this speech, because you have hundreds of people from around the country, VIPs, guests, everyone shoulder to shoulder. That wasn't here. There wasn't that crackle. But there was something different. This speech in this chamber felt more intimate than almost any speech I have heard before.
It felt
And
so
you heard
intimate.
President Biden, I think, use that, sometimes almost talking in a form of a whisper to the chamber. Obviously, Democrats loved much of this speech. The largest reaction I saw and heard was over the child care portion, but there were many parts that they liked on immigration, on rights, on justice, on the Asian American hate crime bill. But I will say something I had not seen before in one of these speeches was there were a number of Republicans repeatedly standing for some things you wouldn't expect. On the climate section, when President Biden talked about jobs, trying to make that pivot and appeal to them. Indeed, I did see several Republicans stand. And I think he broadly is trying to claim the mantle of someone who cares about America and appeal to Republicans on that level. However, for much of the speech, most Republicans did stay seated. They obviously did not like some sections, including his words about trickle-down economics never working. He's got a long way to go to bridge the gap, but this is the most enthusiasm I've seen from Republicans for a Democrat, at least in this Capitol.
Very interesting, Lisa.
Yeah, well, so they say. Well, guys, real quick, I wanted to, because and please feel free to push back on this, but I, as a young man, have yet to come to the realization that healthcare is a right that should be forced by the government. I've always taken the position, since I've become politically aware and a little bit more aware of how things work, that the healthcare arena should be driven by the private sector, and it is more the duty of individuals who gather the skills to become doctors and nurses, and churches to take care of the least of us. It's more of the good Samaritan portion of America that jumps into the healthcare profession that I believe should be responsible for taking care of people, and not the government. The reason why I bring that up is because Democrats love to say it is a right. Healthcare is a right. Okay. If healthcare is a right, then where is that in the Bill of Rights? Because this whole idea of rights it's really an idea of, hey, the rights that we have come from God, and then those get manifested in the Bill of Rights because all of our rights preceded government. So where in Scripture is healthcare a right? Where in the Constitution is healthcare a right? Why do Democrats want to package this as a healthcare right narrative when really the rights that I thought we had, and like I said, guys, please feel free to push back on this. We have the right to express our ideas through speech and press, to assemble, to gather with the group protests or for other reasons, okay, we have the right for religion. So we have the right for speech, freedom of the press, assembly, protesting, and religion. Okay, those are rights. We have the rights to bear arms. Okay, that's a right. We have the Third Amendment, which prevents government from forcing homeowners to allow soldiers to use their home. Okay, that's a right. Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment bars the government from unreasonable search and seizure. Okay, on an individual or their private property. That is a right. The Fifth Amendment provides several protections from people accused of crimes, which states that serious criminal charges must be started by a grand jury. All right. And the whole people have right against self-incrimination. Think of George Floyd. His drug dealer's in the car, yet his drug dealer has the right to not testify. Derek Chauvin decided not to testify. That is a right. The Sixth Amendment provides additional protections to people accused of crimes, such as the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. I wonder if that was true in the Derek Chauvin trial. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is rights. The Seventh Amendment extends the right to jury trial. The Eighth Amendment bars excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishment. The Ninth Amendment states that listing specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that people do not have other rights that have not been spelled out. Okay, so that's where they build on the idea that healthcare is a right. The 10th Amendment says that the federal government only has the powers delegated in the Constitution, and the Constitution does not delegate a socialist regime. Anyways, guys, in closing, where the heck does this idea of universal health care, how is that a right? You know, I don't think it's a right. I think it's a duty of the society, not spurred by government, to erect places that people can find care. Because at the end of the day, we don't want big government. We don't want Obamacare to be inflated. What I want is the private sector to step up, the government to step down, and for people to receive the treatment that they need without government intervention. All right, but I think I'm gonna leave that right there. Let me jump into some of these comments. All right, Sunshine Happy Lady says Senator Tim Scott is giving the Republican response right now. All right, we're not going to cover that tonight, but thank you so much for shouting that out. Randy, you got that right. You got that right, Conservative Republic. Good night. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming and supporting us tonight. Thank you so much, Randy. Sunshine Happy Lady, shame on you, Biden, not socially distancing. It's all a show, breaking your own rules. Rules for thee, not for me. He's fully vaccinated. And yet he's still wearing a mask. What a joke by John. Viking Knight, I thought the part where the boneheaded Biden explained the country how you can get a gun without registration by putting it together on your own. Now everybody knows. Yep. Let's go ahead and manufacture our own guns now, baby. Go buy ghost guns. Yes, Maxine Waters indefinitely needs to be locked up, and her legal immunity and a lot of other crooked politicians' legal immunities to be stripped from them. Yes. All right, Maxine Waters, the one who wants to incite a riot on American soil. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm going to leave that right there. Make sure you guys join the journey to 5K subs. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Make sure you drop another comment. Share some of my shorter content, guys. I will probably be making some content either tomorrow or Friday. I don't know. Me and my wife are about to have our fourth child. Praise God. So, life at my house is it's full. And it's a blessing. It's fulfilling. Happy wife, happy life. Me and my wife are in a very good season of our marriage and our relationship. So, with that said, guys, for those who are in the For those who are in the community of faith, keep us in prayer as my wife gets ready to give birth for our fourth child. Thank you guys for everything. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. As always, guys, God bless. I will see you good people on the next